morning again, everyone. Welcome to the brief. Like I said earlier, the trade on Cody yesterday ended up working. So +3R yesterday brings us to 1.5 in the green for the week. Hopefully you like the new intro slide. What I'm going to do is see all this background stuff behind me, which is my office, which is pretty cool. I'm going to put that background slide behind me as soon as I figure out how, which I don't see it right now. All right, so with that, let's go ahead and get started. We're going to invest with military precision this morning. Standard disclaimer applies. This is a financial education presentation. You have to do your own due diligence before you act on anything you hear in this presentation, because I do not know your own personal circumstance. All right, make sure you've got your Q&A window set up. Make sure you've got your chat window set up and all attendees selected, and call signs looks good for everybody in the room. All right, today, Thursday, October 8th, mission objectives: grow our money, protect our money, and live off our money. Specifically, we're going to talk about the vice presidential debate from last night a little bit, and a little bit about the rhetoric from Trump on the next presidential debate, which is scheduled for next week. We're going to talk about focused stimulus. You can see the tickers there at the bottom and what companies are positioned to gain from a focused stimulus package once it goes through. For our question of the day, we're going to talk about how to buy and sell large portions of shares. Not that you're necessarily doing that, but if you had 10,000 shares of something, you may not want to just dump it onto the open market. So we'll talk about how the big folks do it. We'll talk about how I do it, and then you can learn how you can do it if you ever end up in that situation. For our flow, long, short, open, short, long, we'll talk long-term investing stuff first, get into the around the world headline review, go into our long-term investments that we have shown there. Our day trading execution back in the green for the week. I like that. Big amounts like YEP, LK, NCY, up 22% yesterday. Thanks for that comment in the chat. Already up a little bit this morning. It doesn't really trade after hours, but yet some trades execute. I don't have an answer for how that's possible, but it is up at 5.99 this morning as well. We'll take a look at that ticker here in a minute. Love it, right? All right, we're going to execute the market open and then transition to Q&A and answer the question of the day, and I'll let you go. Contingencies are there at the bottom. Let's go ahead and take a look, and I do want your feedback on my new shortened program here. So please do give me feedback either in the chat or text, whatever is best for you. All right, there's the year in review for the S&P 500. Here's the red day where Trump said there's not going to be any more stimulus. Here's the green day where he goes, well, I mean, broad stimulus, we need focused stimulus, right? For some of the players that are out there, like airlines. We're going to talk about the home building situation kind of thing, that level of the economy. But overall, we're back north yesterday of that 320 to 340 range. I still think at some point in time, there's going to be negativity setting into this market and take us down to the 300 to 320 range. So far, I've been wrong. I'm okay if I'm wrong all the way through the election. That just means I was a little more conservative than I needed to be, and I'm always okay with that. When you look at the last 5 days, there's the big move down with the tweet. And then, of course, let's walk it back. All day yesterday was pretty much an up day, best day since July, I think, of this year. So pretty good. And you can see the futures, a lot of momentum up to the north. A lot of positive news out there. As far as earnings, McDonald's was the big one this morning. They kind of crushed earnings, so they did really well. And then there was IBM, wasn't on earnings, but IBM did a restructuring this morning that is popping them 13%. Obviously, that's going to start carrying things higher. All right, here's our day trading charts. If you want to get set up, the ones I'm looking at are BIOX long, REGN, Regeneron long, and then RGP short. So if you want to get ahead of the game, then make a note of that. All right, let's go ahead and go down to the CNBC, and we'll take a look at around the world headlines. So there are the futures that you can see almost up 1% across the board there and gaining. All right, Europe was in the green earlier. Yep, across the board. Asia, pretty well either in the green or just slightly in the red, not concerning. There are the big numbers from yesterday, including the Russell. We don't talk about the Russell a whole lot, but again, small companies are poised to benefit significantly from a focused stimulus, which is we'll talk more about today. Volatility, I've been long vol and been wrong vol, right? Oops. But hang in there. It's going to pop before the election is my theory. We'll see when it happens. All right, bonds and not much change. Oil back above 40. We like that. And gold and silver a little bit in the green there. And again, I expect to see those going higher as we go into the week. Or excuse me, into the election. All right, vice presidential debate. You can watch the highlights. I did not watch it real time. I actually went to bed early, really early. Kind of an exhausting day yesterday. But again, the fly stole the show. Obviously against white hair, flies stand out, and that's all everybody was talking about this morning. Once we got past the fly mystery, then we got into the actual debate. Seemed pretty calm and tame compared to the other ones, and not much was really learned, if you will. Everybody stayed to their script. So, well, why have it if there's nothing new? Because it's fun. At least candidate Harris stood her ground. So if you're on that side of the ticket, you should be pleased with that. So not another one of those scheduled. The next presidential debate is scheduled. You probably heard already this morning. It's supposed to be 15th October, and it's going to be virtual. And Trump already said that's not worth his time. So I kind of like that play personally, because a debate that's not there looking each other in the eye, I don't know. Let's have a showdown like with pistols in the morning, but we're virtual. What? So I kind of like the idea of, hey, if we're not going to do it in person, let's not do it at all and waste everybody's time. All right, there's the McDonald's sales, 4.6%. So, all right. Airline stocks rallying on revived relief hopes. That is our topic of the day. There were jobless claims this morning. 840,000, I think, was the number. That was a little worse than we expected. So we'll see what the unemployment is tomorrow. Again, jobless claims Thursday, unemployment on Friday. So we will wait for that. Here's the waste of time headline out of Trump. Okay, here's interesting out of Facebook. They said no more political ads after the election. That's not what this says, but that is the big headline out of Facebook. And what they meant by that is after the election, they aren't going to accept any more ads that delegitimize the election. So the losing side could run an entire ad campaign saying it's all bogus. So they aren't going to participate in that at all. So I think that's probably a good move. We shall see. IBM spinning off some stuff and trying to resurrect itself from the dead. It's up 12%. After being down huge for decades, it seems. All right, Regeneron's one of the names we're going to look at for short-term day trading. They got a lot of positive press from the Trump treatment that he got special authority to get, and then this emergency request again to move everything up. Trump was talking yesterday about how hard he's pushing the Fed. I think all that's true. So anyhow, they're on the move higher. Airline stocks we talked about. Domino's, their sales are up, but their earnings are down, so the shares are off, down 5%. We're not gonna short Domino's though; they're too strong. And this is interesting: is when you have activist investors cutting for ending dividends, it's like gasp, right? We don't like dividends to be ended, but it is the right thing to do. And Disney is kind of in trouble, and it's not just the theme parks; it's their movies, it's ESPN, all of that stuff is in trouble. So, all right, that is it for the headlines. Let's go to our long-term topic of the day, which is going to be what stocks are poised to benefit from a focused stimulus. Now, we don't know what's going to be passed, so this is a little bit of a guess, if you will, on how it's going to look, but you can pretty well be assured that the airlines are going to stand to benefit. Does that mean we should rush out and buy airlines? No, I'm not much of a swing trader. You can, if you wanted to load up on the airlines now just to dump them next Thursday, you can, and maybe you make some money, maybe you don't. Not really my cup of tea. But when you look at the airlines, they've been beaten up pretty significantly. If they've had dividends, they've cut it. But when you get into the we talked yesterday about how to research a stock and see articles. Look, in the past basically couple of days, look at all of the thrash in the airline industry. Specific to Southwest, since we have it pulled up, instead of doing furloughs, they've asked their employees to take 10% cuts across the board. Of course, employees say, no, we're not going to do that. So guess what? Furlough time, unless there is some stimulus. So furloughs are obviously bad if you're an employee. If you're an owner of the company, like a stockholder is, furloughs aren't necessarily the end of the world. It does reduce expenses significantly. We shall see. But yeah, I think it could be 4 or 5 years before the airlines recover fully from what's going on here with COVID. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the Schwab board for Street Smart Edge. We'll take a look at the other names I had up on the big board. So Love is up here in the left. You can see that. Off to the right is Jets. That is the airline only specific ETF. If you want to get to all travel and leisure, go to the middle left one. That's PEJ. So you can think cruise lines, you can think Dave and Buster's, Travelocity, Expedia. All these are kind of captured in PEJ. A subset of that, if you want just the travel stuff, and the reason I brought this up is look how much this has been hit. So travel has really been crushed. So if I were to pick any one of these to invest in, which I probably won't, I would pick Away because that's the one that has really been beaten up the most, and which means it has more upside. But if I bought it, if I bought it at 20, I'd be looking to sell it at about 25. So probably not worth my time. I don't know. We shall see. May try it or not. Another thing that the focused stimulus is supposed to help is the individual homeowner, which it's kind of hard to find all those people that can't make rent. So I think we might actually get back to where everybody gets $1,200. You get $1,200. You get $1,200. That kind of thing from last time around, but to kind of help prop up the housing market. So it's kind of like what I call the bonus in the Air Force. They pay it to a bunch of people, 90% of which would stay anyway, or they've had their mind made up anyway. So it's kind of free money to them, but we shall see. Overall, you look at the HOMZ ticker there, housing's held up pretty well. It's just the individual homeowners that are not holding up as well, depending on their situation, excuse me. Now, last one to talk about there is IWC. That is a micro cap company. So when you think of public companies that are super small, that could stand to benefit from the relief for small business, then that's what we're looking at as far as a ticker to invest in there. All right, 5 minutes to go before our trades. We'll go over to the other layout here and look at a few names that we're going to look at long. First one is BHC, up 6% off of earnings. It has the volume 16 up to 17. Ooh, I kind of like this. It's up there. We may switch to that being first. There's the gapping up line, Bausch Health, Q3 revenue above consensus. So that's looking good. The one I had chosen, BIOX, up 8%. Doesn't have the volume, so that comes off the list. All right, next up is Regeneron, REGN. Again, this is looking long off the Trump news. Plenty of volume, closed at 591 up to 612. Some high volume data points there. So if we take this, I obviously remember it's going to be like a $20 stop, that sort of thing. So just get ready for that. I do like the way it is set up. So that's going to be our number 2. COTY was the name from yesterday that eventually moved up and hit the 3 R's just before about an hour before the close is when it finally got there yesterday. So it is gapping up again, 333 to 354. Plenty of shares and plenty of room to run here off of it's a cosmetic company off of a Kardashian related news. So we could switch to that pretty quick if we need to. Jazz Pharmaceutical, JAZZ, is gapping up as well. Low volume, and we're off the top of the chart, so we'll pass on that. So for 3 long, we're looking at BHC as our first one, Regeneron, REGN, number 2, and COTY, COTY, as our tertiary choice there. As far as shorts, only have 2 that meet our criteria. RGP is down 6% on earnings. We'll see if they have the volume. They do not have the volume, so get rid of that or delayed entry in it. I kind of like where it is as a chart. So we'll put delay. And then DPZ, I don't really want to take this short, but it certainly is setting up DPZ. It's got the volume 431, so up here down to 410. Again, they beat revenue but missed earnings, so not what they wanted there. So does it have room to drop? Sure. $5 stop here would get you done. I don't really care for that, so I'm not going to watch it unless the market flips red in the first minute or two. You can see from the other decliners, there's not a whole lot on the way down and nothing that meets our true criteria. Even Domino's is just shy of that 5% point. All right, let's go ahead and get our tickers set up for the trade. We'll put 3 longs in the board. So that's what you see. I'm going to bring this down here so I'm not looking up at the camera the whole time. All right, so we have SPY set up instead of BioX. It's going to be BHC. These are long, so you can take them in any account. Don't necessarily have to be your trading account. Regeneron and Cody from yesterday. Hate to run things back twice, but we certainly can when we need to. All right, about 1 minute to go. Let's look at stops real quick. All right, for BHC, which is my favorite, looks like a 20-cent stop is what I'll be looking at. For Regeneron, it's going to be a $20 stop. Again, that's a little tough sometimes to get done. And then Cody, 355. We had a 7-cent stop yesterday. We'll probably put that at 7 cents again a day, maybe 8. We'll see. All right, welcome to the On Time On Target trade of the day. You have 4 screens set out in front of you. Why is this saying pause? Resume share. There. 4 screens. Welcome to the OT trade of the day. 4 screens in front of you. We have the SPY off to the left. We have our favorite long, BHC, on the left, Regeneron long on the right in the middle, and Cody long on the right. The stops for each of these are 20 cents for the BHC. There's our opening bell. $20 for Regeneron, that's pretty big, and then of course 7 cents for Cody, which we had yesterday. So we're going to focus on BHC long first, up 6%. This one's up 4% and up 7%. So let's get focused in here as to what this is doing. All right, 1710 is the high of the day. So if it flips back, we would want it to go past the high of the day, up to 1711. So just making a little note for myself. That's where I will want to enter it unless it drops down here below, and then we might get a better entry. All right, I don't like Regeneron as much because it's kind of fallen out of the gap. However, we'll keep an eye over here on Cody again, COTY. Already up at 8%. So really focusing on this BHC as far as our primary, and we'll see what we get. Not digging the Regeneron here. Let me switch to looking at Jazz. Jazz, the pharmaceutical, you can see the big move up there. 5%, we may look at this long as well. Really waiting for the BHC to come up here a little bit more before we take it. Don't need to wait for 11 anymore. Market's working against the longs right now. All right, we are going to wait for 11. So 1711, there it is, 1711. We are in the trade. We will use a, come on. Why is it not drawing 1711? So you're in the trade at 1711. There we go. There's our in the trade. We set a 20-cent stop. Do we need that? We do not. 16.99 can be our stop, so that's a 12-cent stop. So 12 cents is our stop. Let me make a note of that. So on the upside, we want 17.23 will be our first mark. Let me get you an arrow in there so you don't get confused which way we're taking this. And that was our entry point at 17.11. And again, the stop is 12 cents. All right, we'll let that cook for just a minute, and then we'll take a look over here at Jazz, kind of low volume. And Cody, not really acting. I'd rather see it go down first and then start its marching up. Let's see, the market's going higher, so that is good news. All right, just in the one trade now. I'm going to use this middle pane to look at both of the shorts. DPZ was the first short. Ooh, looks like that works. So what's that? 409 down to 401. So a $9 move per share there on the way down. So that looks like it would have worked. Again, I don't like shorting dominoes just because they're too strong from the work from home type thesis. And then the other one was RGP short, which we said we needed to wait for the volume. Again, it's earnings short. I kind of like this. Let me add up the volume real quick. Not quite at 100,000 shares yet, but this is setting up nicely. So if we were to enter this trade, high of the day is up, it's called 11.9, 50-cent move down. It's at 6.75, so it does have room to move down. There's our, let me cut to 1723 is our first R for our BHC trade. Wow, that just popped on one trade from 37. No, I can't get myself to take this with such a low volume. That's all we had for the short. Let's look at Luck and see what it's doing. It's been on fire. If you go long Luckin, that has been the trade of all time, basically for the past 3 days. Got up to 607 in here yesterday, then sold off. This was up 30% yesterday, and it came all the way back down to only up 22%. Pretty good move if you have a lot of shares. So it opened here. Went up, touched 623 and came into 592. So pretty big move down there, even though it's showing up 5% on the day. I would like to see Luckin hold 6. It's going to have to take a break in here somewhere. So, I mean, don't expect these huge moves up every single day. But long term, I do think it's a great story. All right, BHC is our trade. It's power and higher. We are 5 minutes into the trading day. Let's go ahead and look at some long-term names. So we're going to switch over to charts. We'll look over here to the left and see what's going on. We know overall the market is in the green, about 0.5% across the board. So we have some psychedelic names up top. There's Luckin. Marijuana names have popped recently. CGC beat earnings a couple days ago, so those have been on the way higher, which it's been nothing but pain. So it's kind of good to see. NEO, all right, Tesla, Callaway Golf, DraftKings stopped falling. I mean, that has been one that it's fallen for a while. Let's check on Palantir. You know, Palantir recovered yesterday some. So let's see how they're doing today. I would like to see them hold 10 for good. They're up a couple percent today. So really, when you look at yesterday, the big jump up above 10, kind of back down to, so here's right at 10. You're seeing some resistance there. So that's good. There's probably buyers out there at 10 now because that was the initial price. So that's going to have some, stickiness as far as that level. But we'll see. So if it does come back down here and bounce off 10, I think we're fine. Asana was the other name that recovered some yesterday. Not a whole lot. See the 5 day move. Here's what I'm talking about as far as the up move yesterday. again, pretty thin on trading today. I like Palantir better, but we shall see. All right, let's take a look at, AVAV, I see popping up to the top of the list here. That's a small drone maker. I like that. And then, of course, IBM up 8%. All right, let's look and see what's in red today. Shouldn't be a whole lot. Go. Maybe we're not going to take a look at what's in red today. All right. Well, I guess we could do it the hard way. Coming in from the bottom. All right. Clickstream, Workhorse, Northwest Bio, Asana, Activision. What? Out of the whole book, there's 15 names in the red, so really not even much to worry about there. All right. Let's check back on our trade. There's the 1R point. Let's see. 1723 plus 12 is 35. Is that right? So we got in at, why is the math not working out here? 31 up to, we said 12 cents. So contacts are messing with that's an 11 in it. So 23 plus 12 is again 35. So up in here is our second R, is where we're holding out for that level. All right, we'll leave that while I talk about the topic of the day real quick, or excuse me, the question of the day. So let's take a look at a chart that I want to show you. Okay, so the question of the day is, how do you move in and out of big positions? So let's take a look at this real quick. This is Investopedia, and you can see its introduction to level 2 quote. So if you want to dump 100,000 shares onto the market or buy 100,000 shares, obviously you can move the price. A couple of us in the room have been on the console together back when we could do things like that, and actually have seen yourself move the market with a bot. So obviously if something's thinly traded, you can move it fairly easily. If it's like Apple or something, then you're going to have to be an institution to basically move it. Not to go into huge detail, but our entire day trading philosophy is based on institutional buying and selling in mass. So process that for a second. That's where you get the 1R, 3R thing. That's just basic money management. But the 5 to 10% gap, that's right at the pain level where companies either have to buy if it's going up for their investors, or if it's going down, companies sometimes need to dump a stock because they're hitting a trigger. That's where I did the PhD study and studied from 0 to 5%, 5 to 10, 10 to 15, 15 to 20. And that 5 to 10% is the sweet spot. If it drops 30% overnight, well, sometimes it's cheap enough they just hold it. There's no selling anymore. They just, well, crap. Whole Foods did that a couple years ago. You know, dropped 25% overnight, and you're like, well, there's no mass selling after that because it's already cheap. So that's why we choose that 5 to 10. And I studied, I think, 375 stocks that met this criteria over a 2-year period, and worked out all the pain numbers and stats to validate what I already knew, and it's 5 to 10%. So it really is kind of the magic number. So why do I want to? And you see that when they move, you see when the day trades, a lot of times they'll just sit there and sit there and sit there, and then all of a sudden they jump almost a whole R. Well, that's what's happening, is there's a buyer or seller out there at a certain level, and when they gets exhausted, the stock price moves. So when you're trying to personally buy or sell a stock, you don't want that to happen on you. If you're trying to sell a stock, you want to get the best price. You don't want to crater the price while you're still selling. So there's what level 2 data, and I pay for this, and I'll show it to you. And I do use this on thinly traded stuff. Lebanon Citizens National Bank is one that doesn't trade enough to where I will look at the level 2. Luckin's volume is now picked up enough to where I don't have to look at the level 2, but I'll show it to you anyway. Enormous insight into a stock's price action. So level 2 shows you the sitting orders. So you can look before you put your order in and see what is already there. These no kidding orders that have already been entered, which is huge. It tells you the sell price. It tells you the size of the order. It doesn't tell you the exact company, but it tells you what exchange is coming in. You don't really care who the buyer or seller is, right? You want to know that it's there. So again, you have the buyers, the sellers, and then the market makers. So it's a book of orders. And if you want to go in, there's a couple videos in here like 2 minutes long. It explains it probably better than I will. But let's go back up to TD Ameritrade, and I'll show you what level 2 data looks like, which is not that screen. Oh, hey, we're at our 3-hour trade. So let's see, 1735 plus 12 is 47. So boom, there's the 3-hour, put it in the books. Well done. It looks like it's got even more to run. However, I'd be out of the trade because that's our trade scenario, is either lose 1 or gain 3. And that's about as easy as it can be there. So there was our entry, and there's where we are now. All right, back to the topic of the day, level 2. So this is the level 2 for Apple. So before you get Tourette's, or maybe you don't get Tourette's, maybe it just affects you if you have Tourette's. I don't know if I'm using that property. Let's slow things down with Luckin. And actually, Luckin's trading too much, so let's slow things down with Lebanon Citizens National Bank. Okay, so what you see over here are the trades that have taken place today. 8:30 is the opening time. So it's translated into local here where I am. So 604 shares traded at 1409. 5 minutes later, you can see 9 shares traded at 1409. Basically, 1409 has been the price all day. You come over to these columns, and you have a bunch of order here setting with these people. This is the max we're going to, this is the max that, well, they're just left. Maybe I did that. Yeah, I think I did that. Sorry. 1409, which is the max people are going to pay. And then there's 1487, which is the max somebody's going to sell it for. So literally the spread here is 78 cents. So if you were to put a market order in to buy, then you would get filled at 1487, even though the current price is 1409, right? Problem. So you would, if somebody's called me up and said, Steve, I want 1,000 shares of Lebanon, I'm like, can I get a couple days on that? Because what I want to do is put a limit order in. I'm going to start working this up. So put an order in at like 1411. Let it sit for an hour. Go up to maybe 1415. Let it sit an hour. At some point in time, people who watch this stuff will see the order walking up, and they're like, okay, we can start to buy that. Well, and again, I don't put in all 1,000 shares. I put in like 100 shares. So each of these that you see, 2 or 1 stands for the shares times 100. Anything 100 or less is going to give you a 1. If you could do 101 shares, it's going to show a 2. So it's not exact, it's an approximate, but you don't need exact numbers. But anyhow, that's for a stock that's not trading that much. So if you go to LKNCY, you can see the trades and the trade history throughout the day. So it looks like where we're at 475. So it's been hit pretty good since we just talked about it holding 5. But anyhow, you can see the orders here on the left. These are the buy orders. These are the sell orders. Obviously, when they touch, that's when you get a transaction that takes place. So that's what it looks like when you get something that's traded a little bit more. And then we'll go back to Apple. That's flying off the shelf. It's almost unusable at this point. When you see a chart like this, there's so much liquidity in the market, you can basically just put a market order in, you'll get filled for less than a penny, less than a penny spread. So, all right, back to our trade of the day. Well done on the trade of the day, and that is all I've got for today. So again, hopefully you like that opening slide. I'm going to figure out how to put that as my background so you don't have to look at all this. So again, continuing to make things better over time. And with that, I will catch you guys tomorrow. You have a good one. Bye.